Lil Durk. Mm-hmm. Would you say that was the biggest crash out of 2024?
No, because the case ain't no.
Okay.
You don't know. They might not have shit on him.
They might not.
Just like they didn't have shit on Young Thug. They
Big
just
difference.
wanted to get out.
Big difference. State RICO, federal RICO. Mm-hmm. Limited budget, unlimited budget.
But
The state of Georgia versus the United States versus.
yeah.
It's a different story. In fact,
Might be a different story.
listen, I just interviewed Yak Gotti's lawyer, Doug Weinstein, who helped his client just beat a RICO.
Right.
And I asked him, I said, how does this compare with the, with the Lil Durk RICO case? He goes, it's going to be a lot different. He goes, it's a very different playing field over there,
One of the biggest stories is the Lil Durk situation, who is facing 2 murder for hires under a federal RICO case. Do you think that this will work out the same way for Lil Durk that it worked out for Young Thug and Yak Gotti, or do you think this is a very different situation?
I think it's a very different situation. I think that, first of all, the feds do not bring a case unless they have what they pretty much consider a slam dunk, and they've done a more thorough analysis than perhaps was done by the DA's office in Fulton County on this case. Anytime you face the feds, it is a major uphill battle. And if I had 6 terabytes of data in this case, I can't imagine how many terabytes they have in that case of discovery and evidence. So I think it's a different situation. Federal RICO is different than state RICO, although state RICO is broader. I think he has a much tougher battle than we had. Now, don't get me wrong. We had a terribly, terribly difficult battle. But his attorneys have some work cut out for them.
It worked in Georgia. Dealing with the feds, that's a different story. And you're right. They may not have anything on him. He may walk free. He may say, listen, he has a hell of a lawyer, Drew Finling, who I've interviewed before. One of the, also NBA Youngboy's lawyer.
Oh, wow.
Think about that.
Wow.
The same lawyer is representing the 2 main guys.
He has a chance, as I've wondered many times, how the fuck he get out of that?
Yeah, Youngboy's getting out sometime this year. I think in June or something like that.
Bruh.
With all types of guns,
How'd you do that?
drugs, everything.
How'd you do it?
Hey, listen,
crazy.
Drew is one of these guys that really just goes all out. Mm-hmm. He really feels strongly about what he does, and he's got a hell of a reputation. But look, they could turn around and say, look, yes, all these guys were murdering people and blah, blah. Well, Lil Durk had no idea any of this was happening. Mm-hmm. He had no idea.
Facts.
He's a rapper. These are criminals. Yes, those were his friends and some of his employees, but he had no idea. He wasn't there. When Lil Pop got killed, he wasn't there when the guy that killed his brother was murdered. And that might be enough for a jury to say not guilty.
Be careful what you make people believe about yourself. Be very careful. If you make people believe that you're a murderer, that you have the power to get someone murdered, or you're playing this dangerous game with your competition, whereas they trying to kill you, you're trying to kill them. Be careful what you make people believe about yourself. You know what I'm saying? It could come back and bite you in the ass. And take a chunk with it.
Yeah. It's funny because Quando Rondo said something kind of similar. He said, be careful about the image that you create for the world, because that's the image that you will ultimately get judged for if it ever makes it to a trial.
Right.
You're this big kingpin, you call the shots, everything else like that. And I feel like Chicago and Jacksonville were sort of the first 2 places in hip hop that started to really blur the lines between music and reality.
Right.
There was just way too much.
Wait, you feel like Chicago and Jacksonville started that?
Yeah, I do.
I think that started in New York.
With who?
I'm not gonna name names, but I think it definitely started in New York.
If you don't name names, then I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, cool. You leave it in the comments.
Leave it in the comments.
Leave it in the comments. Who made believability one of the most important things about their image?
So you're not even gonna name the rapper?
No.
Jay-Z?
Said I'm not naming him.
Okay. I tried. I would still have to say Chicago and then Jacksonville. I mean, Chicago started and Jacksonville, I feel, took it to a worse place, you know, to the point of like, you're naming all the people who died in your songs, you're showing their pictures.
Yeah.
I mean, Fulio did a video at a graveyard holding up a picture of all the people that got killed that were his enemies. Like, he's literally holding it up. He's desecrating essentially the cemetery and so forth. And then those are the songs that become the biggest songs. Those are the 50 million viewed songs.
Wow.
And ultimately it fuels the anger of people that were close to the deceased.
It's a spectacle.
Yeah.
It is a spectacle. These guys are literally dying for attention.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, no, that's actually the best way to say it. They're literally dying for attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've interviewed Fulio. Me and him kept in contact shortly before he died. We were supposed to do another interview, and then he couldn't make it, but he called me and apologized. And I thought, you know, and I told him, man, there's DMs. Like, yo, bro, you just need to just move the hell up out of here. Like, you're going to get... There's nothing good that's going to happen with you staying in Florida, any part of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Lil Durk, like, he goes and makes a song. Now, of course, they said that it's not that, which is their job to say, but like, he did a song where it appears that he sampled Quando Rondo screaming because his friend just died. And he actually has that in the song as a background vocal that keeps playing over and over again.
That's funny. I recently dropped a song with the audio of someone that I don't get along with getting shot. That's funny.
Is the song out?
Yeah.
Could you say
Free use.
free use?
Free use. That's the name of the song.
Okay, so who was the audio of? No?
I'll let them figure it out.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so you're telling me that someone who you consider an enemy these days?
Not an enemy, just a nuisance.
A nuisance.
A nuisance.
Someone who, okay, so if he sat down next to you right now, would it be civil or no?
That'd be up to him.
Okay, so it could go bad.
It would be up to him.
Okay. So he got shot and what? There was like a news footage or something like that of it?
Yeah,
or
he's
something like that.
popping shit outside the projects.
And he got shot.
He got shot.
And it ended up on video on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah.
So you sampled that and put it on your song.
Yeah.
Okay.
Literally dying for attention.
I assume he survived the shooting?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So you thought it was a good idea to put that audio in your song?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like that person thought it was a good idea to upload it onto the internet.
Oh, they uploaded it themselves?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Literally dying for attention.
Well, when it comes to stories like this, I always like to bring this part. I like to bring up this story. There's a rapper in the Bay named Kafani.
Kafani.
You know the story?
No.
He had a pretty big song at one point in the, I think the mid-2000s called Fast Like a NASCAR, featuring Keek the Sneak. It was a big Bay Area song, you know. At one point, he got into a beef with this rapper named Filthy Rich, right, who came from a rough part of Oakland. The two of them were going back and forth with each other on social media, making posts about each other or whatever. think Filthy Rich had these photos of like Kafani, like in bed, kind of naked, you know, which looked kind of a little sus, sort of, you know. It was like these weird kind of pictures. He tried to say that he was gay or whatever else.
Right.
So Kafani felt it was a good idea to go to Filthy Rich's neighborhood and film a diss song about Filthy Rich in that neighborhood. Mm-hmm. During the course of filming, somebody from that neighborhood approached him and told him to leave. He said, "I'm not leaving." That person pulled out a gun and shot him multiple times, to the point where, and we talked about this in the interview, he died on the way to the hospital. Mm-hmm. Somebody had to actually go into the parking lot. One of like the nurse practitioners had to go and revive him in the parking lot. Once he came to, he became a permanent paraplegic. He has never walked since then.
Right.
This is where rap beefs go wrong. Mm-hmm. This is when you start playing with fire and start, you know, showing how tough you are. Oh, I'm going to go into his neighborhood to show that I'm not scared of anything, and I'm going to diss him in his own hood, and blah, 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 blah. Pretty sure Kafani wishes he could rewind that situation and say, I think I'll just film this in a studio somewhere.
But he can't.
He can't.
Right.
For the rest of his life, he's not going to be able to walk. Last I checked. And Kafani, I'm sorry if you're able to actually walk. I haven't got an update of your condition,
right.
So I truly apologize. And I know that he's mad. I know he's gotten mad at me using this example over the years, and I'm sorry. But I feel this is so important, mm-hmm. because I don't think that there is a person on earth that would trade a couple of days of social media, you know, viral footage for the inability to walk for the rest of their life. And this is where things go wrong.
Especially when the rest of the world wouldn't have known whose hood it was, right?
Yeah, the nickname of that hood, by the way, is the Kill Zone. Let's just talk about that. You know, just so you understand what people are walking into. You know, like, I remember my early days of Vlad TV during the DVD eras. I would go to people's hoods and their studios and their blocks and film, and guns are getting pulled out and waved in the cameras and everything else like that. If you want to do a Vlad TV interview, you're going to come to my studio. Mm-hmm. You know, unless it's a special situation like Teddy Riley invited me to his home. Like, you know, I'll do that.
Right.
But I'm not going to go to some random studio in some random neighborhood or whatever else, someone's house, just because I feel it's too dangerous. I don't have control of the environment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That even with security, I don't know how many, you know, one security guard ain't going to help if there's 20 people.
Right.
So I'm actually a little disappointed that you did that.
Why?
Because I think it's reckless.
It's free use.
Okay? You're escalating things to the point where you could potentially cause someone to crash out. And everyone loses during a crash out, right? Becomes a kamikaze mission, essentially.
Listen, if this person crashes out over my record, his priorities are seriously twisted.
You're saying that now. You're saying that now.
I'm
because
saying
because the record is not a big record yet. But if it becomes a #1 hit song and they have to hear that shit over and over and over again.
Listen.
Like Drake has to hear "Not Like Us."
Listen.
The pedophile statements over and over again. At one point, you snap and you start to sue the record label. You start to put your friend LeBron on blast, and you start basically just acting like a lunatic, like a Karen. You know what I mean?
It's still not like I forced this guy to give up his manhood or something.
Yes, there's always a worse thing to do.
Yeah.
He started to pull down his pants. Like, yes, there's worse things you could do in life.